Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. Andy, we are on Team 3 of the NFC North, and that is the Green Bay Packers, and they have a pretty distinct feel this year. They feel to me like the forgotten perennial contender in the NFC. I don't think I've heard a full-throated case made for the Packers being, realistic contenders for, for a Super Bowl appearance this year. And that's kind of crazy because of middle of the season last year at 5-1-1. This was the top power rated team by a lot of people who were making numbers. And it seemed like Love had taken a step forward, was, absolutely cooking in LaFleur's scheme. The defense had Micah Parsons and was just terrorizing quarterbacks. And yeah, they had some sputters. Then it all came unraveled.
It did come unraveled.
and now this team is truthfully buzzless. Is that fair?
Yeah, and I mean, you're right to point out last season. A big part of what I forget is what happened last season in the middle of the year. I could tell you what happened at the end of the year. They were up 21-3 at halftime on the Bears. How'd that go? Yeah, there was a point where it's hey, this might be the top seed in the NFC. And then they slide. And it's crazy. If you look at the standings for the NFC North, they were 9-7-1, and that was second. And the Vikings were 9-8, I think, maybe. I'm gonna have to triple check that.
Yes.
It was incredibly tight from top to bottom. And they were, what were they, the 7th seed?
Lions were 9-8 too, right? Yeah.
There was a tiebreaker for Minnesota and Detroit to get that fourth place schedule, which Detroit
40 tie locked them in as the 7th seed wild card, and the 2-7 matchup was Chicago Green Bay, which was one of my favorite playoff games of the year. That was incredible.
I think part of it was because we were
at Circa.
We were in recliners in the middle row of Circa. That did make it a lot of fun. There were so many fans from both sides, and the ebbs and the flows of their moods was very funny considering how that game went. But yeah, the Denver game, Micah Parsons, ACL week 15, a late one. And that's going to be a big theme on how we're going to try to put these power ratings together today for the Packers, because it's not like a lot of these, injuries we're going to talk about where he might miss a little camp. He might miss, this is where he's trying to work his way back. 6 weeks, man. It's the first 6 weeks are probably gone for this guy for this season. It's a big injury, and he's a big part of that defense. And I think overall, kind of the too long didn't read. My take on the Packers is, Jesus, I love so many players on this team, but they are incredibly thin. And that's what happens when you have a good quarterback that you're finally going to have to start paying, and you go get yourself a high-end free agent. I didn't fact check this, but someone said the Packers hadn't had a draft without a first-round pick in 40 years. That seems almost too long to be true. So I'm going to triple check that. But they didn't have a first-round pick because of the trade. And the roster breakdown and me looking at beyond week one into the season. And that's something I was talking to Noonan about today. I said, I've really had to separate. This is my power rating for week one. It's based on the 22 players plus special teams and whatnot that are playing, and a few of the rotation guys. Who is taking the snap shares day one? And then I have to do a whole different calculation for, season-long stuff. And when you go day one, it's it's a pretty good team. But if you look at some of the season-long stuff, it's Jesus, they're going to need to figure some stuff out in a few of these groups, because it is a little thin on the back end. Overall, I think you're right as far as the hype. They haven't been a hype team, and I guess I don't really have a good reason why. I don't know. Maybe it's just because we have the hype of the Ben Johnson already in the division. We have Detroit as, the perennial team with the good roster and the fun coach, and they're bringing back most of their talent. And then you have Kyler Murray threw a 60-yard bomb for a touchdown, and in training camp today. That clip's all over my feed. Jesus, guys, calm down. So I don't know. It's,
I gotta go find that. I haven't seen it yet.
It was good. I mean, it's training camp. I think it was more indicative of the safeties for Minnesota. Like they got burnt by Addison, but such is life. So
sign Jamal.
my takeaway from last season is just the injury. The injuries were a lot because it wasn't just the Micah Parsons thing. It was Reed.
Even Jordan Love wasn't very healthy at the end of the year. He missed the Baltimore game and he got knocked out of that Chicago game,
which cost him their backup. Jaden Reed, collarbone. He only played 7 games. He had the foot injury as well. Tucker Kraft, mid-season knee injury.
Let's highlight that one. Let's take a deep breath. Let's take a deep breath. Let
me get through them real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Elton Jenkins, season-ending lower leg injury. Devontae Wyatt, who's important.
Sure.
Savion Williams, who was starting to get integrated into the offense. Nate Hobbs was this guy you went out and got to fix part of the problem in the secondary, and he had knee trouble. He only played 11 games. They started 10 different offensive linemen. I mean, outside of everything else, Micah Parsons aside, they didn't have great injury luck and still made the playoffs. Like, we should be viewing this as a high-end team if everything breaks right.
Okay. Quick internet search, by the way, says Packers did not make a first-round pick in 2017, 2008.
Yeah, I'm like, where did this come from?
1986 and 1975. So
86 is 40 years ago. So that checks.
So maybe they traded their first round pick.
Maybe it was they didn't have their own pick going into the draft or something.
Oh, maybe because they traded their first round pick to the Jets for future stuff in 2008, and they did the same thing in 2017 with the Browns. So could have just been that, but
going in. Yeah.
I think the reason there's no buzz on the Packers team is because they like statistically, when you look at it, they kind of like 9-7-1 is not on paper, does not look like a wild underachievement in record. It feels like it to me. Like this feels like this should have been like an 11-6 at worst, maybe 12-5 kind of a team with how good they were when they were good, But, the Pythag says they should have been about a 9.5 win team. They were 9.5 win team. When you look at the roster this year and you compare it to the roster when it was fully healthy last year, it looks worse. So, I kind of understand why people would sort of take those two pieces of information and be like, well, if they got worse and they were kind of they kind of are what their record said they were last year, then good luck. Yeah, maybe they're a playoff bubble team this year. Maybe they're solved. Maybe we know exactly who they are. There's not like some sort of high upside ceiling. As far as kind of putting them in buckets, I still think you put the Packers in the bucket of like high upside, high ceiling because of the potential for Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur to continue to to grow. The leaps that Jordan Love took last year to me was it wasn't fueled by bullshit. It was like just really, really solid quarterback play, right? Like they weren't leaning into weak schedule. They weren't leaning into high volume. It wasn't because he had superlative protection. It wasn't because he had, game changer wide receiver one type of weapons who could get open at on demand and had winning at the point of the catch over and over again, with maybe one exception, and that was that Matt LaFleur's offense did utilize Tucker Kraft as an absolute, no doubt, easy button, and not just an easy button, but like an explosive easy button, which is pretty cool. Like if you have that in your arsenal and you have, a guy like Kraft who can get lost with a little bit of wiggle and a little bit of an early blocking assignment, and then he's just lumbering down the field with an off-ball linebacker like scrambling to find him and get within 10 yards of him, and he makes a perfect catch and turns it into a 40-yard gain. Like that's a nice club in your bag, right? And when Kraft got hurt, it did feel like the air came out of the offense a little bit. It also felt like Josh Jacobs' 2024 campaign was probably his Apex Mountain, whatever the fuck that means. And now it's kind of, in 2025, he was a little bit less of a fastball. But they used him less. And, 2026 is a big question mark for him because he's obviously going to be dealing with some off the field issues, to put it politely. So,
I do want to give him a little bit of a pass because of the offensive line stuff and just where the team was. But yeah, clearly he's not at the level he was when I think he led the league the one year in rushing when he was in in Vegas. He's put up some pretty good years.
Well, 2 years ago, my best year for him was 2024 for Green Bay. I thought he was a special difference making player, and that was a surprise. I guess here's the thing, though, Andy. Even if they're in
part of my thin argument, because how do you grade the guys behind him if he's suddenly the legal troubles if they crop back up and he sits out, you're looking at Lloyd and Brooks, which is actually probably a camp battle that matters between Chris Brooks and Marshawn Lloyd because status watch Josh Jacobs, we'll see.
So even though they're in the bucket, in my opinion, of high ceiling because of the potential of OC QB being top 5, I don't think you can deny the fact that the offensive line is weaker than it has been for many years under LaFleur with Love. I don't think you can deny that the wide receiver room is weaker than it has been for many years under LaFleur with Love. Kraft being back matters. Running back room's thin, as you said. And the defense looks kind of bad, I got to say. So, there's definitely not like a high floor with these guys, in my opinion, just because they could find themselves in some shootouts. And then if they're up against teams with a good pass rush, this offensive line might become a problem. Like if something goes sideways for the Packers in 2026, and if they end up as a lower floor team than we are going to talk about on this podcast, in my opinion, it's because they are in negative game states. Jordan Love is trying to create out a structure, and he's just getting sacked.
He's just picking sod out of his face.
He's just picking sod out over and over and over again, and that is within the realm of possibility. It is in the range of outcomes, as they say, because this is the weakest. This is a weak roster considering where things have been coming into these seasons for the Packers. They've usually been chock full of young talent. Lots of guys that could take a step forward. And if this and this and this and this, if this guy and this guy all take steps forward, then look the fuck out. It doesn't really feel like that with these guys this year, which is, I think, why there's no notable heat on this team. I'm honestly almost surprised they're the second choice in the North right now. It's easier to kind of squint and think that there's more room to grow with Caleb and Ben Johnson. It's easy to squint and look at the Vikings as a high floor defense with Flores and hope that Kyler Murray leaps, takes their offense to the next level. It's easy to look at the skill position group of the Lions and see why they're the top choice right now. But, for me, I think there's the fact that Parsons is not going to be available till the middle of October. Number one, it sucks for us as football fans. Number two, it really takes the air out of optimism around Appleton, Wisconsin.
And a new DC in charge. Granted, it should be a lot of the same, but that said, we have maybe never really seen it from Gannon outside of the 1 year that he was great in Philly, and that was with some elite players that really made that defense look good. Got him that job in Arizona. Benefit of the doubt in Arizona. The rosters,
he had his moments in Arizona.
Yeah, rosters weren't great, so sometimes it's hard to judge. But you are bringing in a new DC. Your offensive coordinator is Adam Stenovich. I'm just going to say that out loud because I don't think I could have said that without my notes. It's one of those 10. You have those 10 teams who are O'Connell and LaFleur and these guys who call their own plays, and you just always forget who the OC is. But yeah, Jonathan Gannon coming in at DC. You have a new special teams coach in Cam Ackard from New England. Luke Getsy was promoted to assistant head coach, quarterbacks coach, whatnot. Bobby Babich is on this staff. Remember him? There's a few different. I don't know if I could name exactly where he's all been, but he was a Buffalo DC at some point. And then, you want to talk before we get into the rosters and the power
Well,
ratings, talk about some of the other offseason changes. I'm done with 2025.
I got two teeny notes. Remember when 2025s?
Remember when?
I mean, besides the fact that the Green Bay Packers were at one point my number one power rated team, and I was pretty confident that they were live for a run.
They were going to get the 1 seed at that point. I mean, that's what it was looking like.
That's kind of, they had their high was as high as anyone. And they ultimately cashed it in with 0 playoff wins. They were extremely entertaining, obviously, in the high leverage game before Christmas and then the playoff game. But you know what I'll remember them most for, Andy? They were the turds in the punch bowl of Survivor last year.
Twice. They took out 2 of our 3 entries.
Twice. The loss to the Browns week 3, inexcusable. Inexcusable. Yeah. Absolutely inexcusable. They were up against Joe Flacco behind a MASH unit offensive line. Joe Flacco threw for 142 yards that day, 0 touchdowns, a pick, and got sacked twice. You weren't able to beat that team. Absolute embarrassment that they didn't win that game. And then they punked us against Carolina Panthers week 9. Do you remember what the spread was in that game, Andy? The 5-1-1 Packers hosting the Carolina Panthers in Lambeau.
Like 9.5?
13. They were 13-point favorites, lost outright. Absolute embarrassment. Their game the next week against Philly was equally trash. 10-7 loss.
We did not.
Their lows were low.
Did not win the millions.
No.
Survivor, because mostly I think we would have, if we could have got past those games, we probably would have won.
I think so too. We saved all of the right teams for late in the season, so I completely agree with you. They did punk. I think they probably punked some teams. May have taken the Lions on Thanksgiving, and they got them down. They were 3-point dogs at Detroit on Thanksgiving, and they won. That started the cavalcade of dogs on Thanksgiving coming across the wire. But yeah, let's talk about the other offseason changes, because there were a ton, and most of them were minuses.
Yeah,
in terms
on the way
of
out.
the roster. On the way out, go.
I don't know how you feel about Rashawn Gary as a whole, but
great number 2.
Yeah, he was traded. Now your 1 and your 2 are out, because one's in Dallas and one is on the couch rehabbing. Dontavian Wicks, previously mentioned when we talked to Philly, letting him and Dubs walk. I know you said that the wide receiver room is thinner, but honestly, I'm fine. Like, just pick the guys you want to keep. You have like 7 receivers. Like, pick the ones you want and get them more reps, I guess. So maybe I'm fine with Wicks being out. They did add Javon Hargrave, which is
Wicks and Dubs gone.
Yeah, Wicks and Dubs gone. You added Javon Hargrave from Minnesota. He's 33, I think. It's an upgrade a little bit in interior pass rushing, but he's healthy enough. He's going to play. I have him as a negative for run stop inside. Okay. So he's probably rotating in just on pass rushing stuff. You got Benjamin St. Just, the cornerback, who's going to be in a boundary, the competition for the boundary corner. He was with the Chargers, he was pretty bad in Washington. He started his career with the Commanders, maybe the football team at that point. He was better. He was better in Chargerland.
He had mentor dust sprinkled on him.
He
was better.
he was. I mean, he was better.
He was better.
I mean, part of that was because he was real bad in Washington.
Yes,
with the Nate Hobbs, they gave up on Nate Hobbs, so you got to do something there. You brought in Tyrod Taylor because you lost Malik Willis. You need another backup. Yes. You can't argue with that. If you're gonna have an experienced backup, you can do a lot worse. You brought in Josh Wiley. I never remember how to say this. He's like a third tight end kind of guy.
Yeah.
Elton Jenkins, we mentioned it was a lot of money for a guy who snapped his leg, and I was kind of cap math, I think, is where they got rid of him, even though they're kind of thin in the interior offensive line. So I guess Quay Walker and Rasheed Walker, both Walkers, linebacker and left tackle. out the door to Vegas and Carolina, respectively. I mentioned Nate Hobbs is gone, and Brandon McManus was released, the kicker.
That was warranted.
Yeah, it's I guess he was a little spendy too. They did like re-signings or whatever, but they did re-sign and extend a few of these other receivers, Watson Reed, Devontae Wyatt after the injury. And then I don't know, did I miss anybody on the additions and subtractions? Colby Wooden.
What?
From Colby Wooden.
Okay.
Defensive tackle from Indy earlier, right before the tampering period. Just a rotational defensive lineman. I think that was where they lost Zaire Franklin.
I see. No, Zaire Franklin's still here.
Okay, no. Yeah. I wonder who
They brought
traded.
Zaire Franklin in from India, I think. Right?
Yeah, I have that back. I have it backwards.
Okay. Notable
Colby Wooden traded for Zaire Franklin. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Not a addition or subtraction, but notable that they reset the interior D lineman market with the Devontae Wyatt contract.
He's good. It's a lot of money, but some of these contracts, I get a little frustrated with people getting worked up about. Not taking a shot at you because we all do it, but like, oh man, that's a lot of money for that guy. It's like, yeah, it's just the timing sometimes. Like, hey, he was due, and contracts always go up. And guess what? The cap went up again. The cap's going up more than we expected. Every time it goes up more than we expected somehow. And sometimes these guys who you view as like mid to upper instead of elite, they get these big contracts because of the timing. And to their credit, it's like, hey, you were just lucky. Like it's like the guy who cashes out his 401k when the market's at an all-time high. Like you could have predicted that 60 years ago when you opened it or whatever. Like just happy, good job for you.
I guess I just don't see it with him personally. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
I have him rated pretty high. Snapping his leg was bad. I didn't care for that.
Oh, yeah, surely.
And then real quick on the draft, mentioned no first rounder, but they did draft a corner in the second who was many scouts thought he was a first round talent.
Which one? Brendan Sissy?
Sis?
Okay.
I don't know which way we're going to go with that. Speed, twitch, anticipation. A lot of people high in this guy. He walks into a place where he can compete for a spot for sure. And if not, maybe right away, maybe mid-season when he gets a little more experience. He was 20 years old on draft day. That's pretty young.
Wow.
Draft
that's
defensive
surprising.
tackle.
That's bucking the norm.
I think he Doogie Howser did or something. We have to check on that. They traded up in the third round to take defensive tackle Chris McClellan from Missouri because of because
they didn't have a nose tackle.
Yeah. Some of the turnover on the offense or the defensive line rather, and he as I mentioned, Hargrave's not a great run stopper, but can pass rush from the inside. This is kind of we're going to make one guy out of two guys. Because this is a true nose tackle, big guy, can stop the run. You play him on early downs.
He's only listed at 313.
Big enough. Well, I guess his stats are good enough against the run stop. That's kind of what they're projecting. And then this is a guy that Noonan likes. This guy, Noonan of 4for4 fame, our big IDP guy. He's one of the best IDP fantasy analysts in the whole world. DDS, I'm calling him, and then I'm going to slowly morph that into the dentist because of what DDS, Danny Dennis Sutton.
Is that a doctor of dental science? Is that what DDS stands for?
Thinks it. I don't know. I just see it on the end at the signs in front.
It must be a doctor of dental science.
That checks out. But DDS was a combine hero. We'll see how much that transforms, but he expected to be a high floor rotational rusher.
Doctor of dental surgery. Oh. How about that?
Oh, look at that. Either way, the dentist is maybe going to be called into service sooner because of the obviously the Parsons being on PUP.
What's his what's his pedigree?
Penn State.
Okay.
He got his dental degree from Penn State. He was a fourth round pick. Again, he was a guy that he blew up the combine with some of his athletic stuff. They drafted another interior lineman. As we mentioned, that's a issue they had some depth at. And Jager Burton from Kentucky in the 5th round. And then another cornerback in the 6th from Alabama, Damani Jackson, and then Trey Smack, the kicker from Florida.
Trey Smack.
Oh. I want him to win the kicker competition because Trey Smack is a good name.
That's a good kicker name. Actually, I take it back. It's a great kicker name.
He set the University of Florida record with 10 field goals of 50-yard plus. He's in a competition with Lucas.
He's going to
Haversick.
He's going to win.
Here's a quick question.
He's going to win.
Because Lucas Haversick, I was thinking, I remember him kicking a little, but there were so many guys that got rotated around. How many kickers attempted a field goal in the league last year for the 32 NFL teams?
51.
That's too much.
I don't know.
It's 41.
41. That's a lot. Man.
But how many kickers did a kickoff in the league last year? Kicked the ball off of a tee to the other team.
32.
55.
What?
One of them was Ray Davis. I gotta figure out what happened.
What?
There. I think there was an injury or something. I don't know what happened there, but I was just kind of looking.
I kind of remember that where he did the kickoff and people were wondering, are they going to go for 2? Or are they going to have Ray Davis do the extra points if they score more touchdowns? And they went for 2.
Maybe we need Ray Davis here, but there's your off season. There's a lot of backfilling in spots you needed to. That said, roster wise.
Let's go Trey Smack, man.
Yeah, you got rid of some of the receivers. Hopefully you save the ones that are good. Your offensive line is Zach Tom and some Jags. Your running back room is thin in the back end, and the defense is in a weird spot.
Your breakdown there of the roster changes, to me, it feels like poor planning. This was a bad year to have a lot of talent walk out the door and have this little draft capital to recoup. Feels like it is a little bit of a, there was some bust in the vision. Now, whether that's because there was a brain drain with who's the GM that moved on to Miami? Remember that guy?
Yeah, I can't.
I'm not sure if it was a brain drain or what, but I definitely feel like this was a little bit of like once you sat down and looked at the books, if you're Brian Gutekunst, if you were Gutekunst this offseason, and you sat down, you looked at your books, you were like, shit. Like, this is the off season. We got to take a little medicine. Cause I don't know that, I don't know that you're loving sort of the turnover that occurred.
John Eric Sullivan.
Thank you. All right. Let's talk ratings. But before we do we have a sponsor for this podcast, Andy?
These podcasts are brought to you by the Circa Sports contests for the 2026 NFL season, which we'll be signing up for in a few weeks, and we hope you do too. If you make it out to the desert next week for Bet Bash, we'll see you out there. If you make it out for sign up weekend, which if you're signing up, I think based on how many contest entries you sign up for, you can actually just get free rooms from them as well and other perks. I'm gonna triple check into the actual details on that, so I have them for one of the next podcasts. But look on the site, because I think you can get yourself some free stuff too. If you're already signing up, you might as well get the free stuff. 20 million-ish for Survivor, and I think it's 6 million for Circa Millions 7. And then additionally the Grandissimo, which is I think 6 million last year. So there's 30 plus million up for grabs, $1,000 an entry or more if you want to do Grandissimo. And if you have any questions on how to do it, how to sign up, how to find your proxy, how to get stuff going, how it works, you can just DM us or hit us up in the Discord if you're a part of that, because we can help you out. We've been doing it for a while. It's not that hard. Just pick some winners, guys. Just hit 65% and everything will be all right.
I love it. I just went to try to do a screen grab of the of our 3 friends. Obviously, Derek, Mike Palm, and Jeff Benson. They're making a very funny look on the YouTube thumbnail. And I was going to try to screen grab that and put it up while you do the read, and I wasn't fast enough. But you know what I did see? In the opening little montage, we're both in it. They have like the super cut of everybody talking about like their sign up on their sign up day. We're there.
Yeah?
We're in the mix. Yeah, they were
send
featured.
that to me.
I will.
Let's look at that. No, it's funny because I watched another clip and they showed those fireworks. And I'm like, hey, there was a girl that was very drunk up there that said had some choice words for Andy, and I'm like, I know who this person is. In
strong negotiator. Yeah,
and again, our good friend Derbify was featured in a couple of those. Right. I'm going to see him again out there this week or in a couple of weeks when we come out. Let's get into the power ratings for the Green Bay Fighting Packers.
We start with the QB-OC combination. I still hold out that Matt LaFleur is one of the Matt LaFleur is one of the more kind of reliable play designer, play sequencer, visionary, kind of offensive minds going. Is he on the elite tier of the Ben Johnsons and the Sean McVays of the world? Probably not. Is he on that next tier? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. There's no evidence that his ability to coach up backup quarterbacks on the fly that's clearly a strength of his. His in-game adjustments have been strong when they've needed to be. He has had some duds as far as game plans go, but every offensive mind does. I think he keeps this number high, even if Jordan Love is struggling for whatever reason, but there's no reason to think Jordan Love will struggle. His EPA numbers last year were gaudy. He was excellent. And it wasn't just on the back of playing a bunch of shitty defenses like the Cowboys and the Lions, although 3 of his top 5 performances came against the Cowboys and the Lions.
A lot of people's top performances came against the Cowboys.
Yeah, he had a strong performance against the Washington Commanders. He had a strong. You're not going to believe this, Andy. He did well against the Bengals also. He didn't face a lot of very good defenses. He did have a positive number against the Vikings when he played them Week 12 in the 23-6 win. He was very strong in that game. He did well against well enough, better than every other quarterback practically that played the Denver Broncos. He did not have a negative EPA game despite the 2 interceptions that he threw in that contest. So I think Jordan Love has kind of proven he deserves the benefit of the doubt, and I would say we have to start within the 7s here. My consistency now
because you didn't have your spreadsheet open.
My consistency now the last 2 years says 7.3. Is his fair 73rd percentile for Mr. Love and Mr. LaFleur.
It's funny. I have the exact same number.
Okay.
We don't often have the exact same. We're close on a bunch today, but I have the exact same number I came up with as well. A lot of it was, based on he had a high completion percentage. He was efficient last year. Passer rating.
God, man, his efficiency last year was
was very good. And as Patrick's mentioning, I don't love LaFleur as much in the playoffs. I might have to, but this is for week 1. This is as far from the playoffs as we can get. So I'm not.
That's an intangibles thing, though.
Yeah, I'm not docking that quite yet.
Right.
So yeah, we'll go. I'm right there with you. You
like doing stuff like kicking a field goal when you need 5 points against the Buccaneers or your season's over. It doesn't sit well with me. But game planning and in-game adjusting, guys killer. Okay. Skill position group for me. I'm sorry. Skill is next. Yes. Skill position group for me is a 5.4. Some of this is a little bit of trepidation. I got to see Tucker Kraft do what he was doing last year. If he's able to have the same level of success that we saw from him at his high points last season, I would say that this group number is going to go up into the 6s. And then if the wide receivers are not able to kind of backstop the losses and guys like Golden and Reed aren't able to, kind of take steps forward, Watson's not able to stay healthy, there's room for this to go down. You mentioned that Josh Jacobs is backed up right now by a guy who's not practicing in Chris Brooks, Marshawn Lloyd, Pierre Strong Jr. That is a stinky depth chart at running back. And yeah, all of the depth stinks. There's scope for this to go either way, but I'm starting at a 5.4.
I'm at a 5.6 here, a little higher, but same, echoing what you said. I would go higher if I seen Tucker Kraft playing well. It sounds like he's skipping preseason as he still has to, get to be 100% after the ACL. So I don't know that I'm going to move this up immediately, but Watson is I'm a very big fan of him as far as like his average yards per catch, his DVOA as a person. And he got paid. And then Reed, when he's healthy, when he's standing upright, he's a proven slot player. Jacobs still grades out well enough that I'm happy if he's the bell cow, if he's not in legal trouble. Obviously, that's an adjustment we're going to have to make if we get any news on him and the offseason, stuff that allegedly occurred. And then, like you said, the depth is a little rough as far as that. You got the Savion Williams. He was injured. You have Sky Moore brought in as a free agent. He was a free agent for a reason. You have Bo Melton is still in this team. So behind the top three receivers, it's a little tough. And then Tucker Kraft being injured, I'm starting a little lower.
Okay. Offensive line is very, very tough. The consensus
I think there's
a
pretty good player. Yeah, I think there's one really good player on this offensive line.
Zach Tom.
Yeah.
I have a plus for Zach Tom. I have a small minus for Sean Ryan. I have a decent minus for Jordan Morgan, a decent minus for Aaron Banks, and a very large negative next to Anthony Belton,
who might not play. He's a big negative in my mind too, and he's in a competition. So yeah, I mean, you say I'm at a 4.7 here. Zach Tom is your pillar. He's very good.
If a fifth round rookie beats out your current starting right guard, that's bad.
Well, and not only that, but some of the drafting you did in previous years hasn't panned out to backfill some of the spots. Like the Jordan Morgan left tackle. He's failed to beat guys out to get a spot for a couple of years. He was like Rasheed Walker was ahead of you, and Aaron Banks obviously has not played to.
Damn, Jordan Morgan was a 2024 pick.
Yeah, Arizona, I think.
He was a rookie last year.
He's been trying to, I feel like he was a first rounder too.
Definitely. It was late first. Yeah, for sure.
Late first round pick there. He hasn't played up to his draft spot. Aaron Banks hasn't played up to his contract. Sean Ryan.
Rahayan.
I
don't know.
His pressure rates as a center were pretty bad.
Honestly, the rest of the centers in the league are so bad, I can't actually dig him.
Belton, I mean, his blown block rates amongst guards was pretty rough when he played. So, and again, it might not even be him. We have the Belton Burton battle for right guard.
Burton
and
battle.
And the worst part is that your best player had that patellar injury, and I hope he's feeling up to snuff because he's got to play pretty good if you want.
How low did you go? Maybe I need to be lower.
No, I'm a 4.7. I still think Tom is very good. I don't think
you're too high then, because I'm at a 4.6.
I don't think Jordan Morgan is bad. It's just he was expected to be contributing.
Yeah, he's not. Yes, he's not. This is not a pair of tackles that's anchoring. One of the best offensive lines in the league anymore.
Aaron Banks isn't bad. It's just they paid him like he was going to be a lot better.
Yeah, this is fair. That's fair. So it's perception problem, maybe. Then. Yeah,
just a little below average. 4.7 is fine. You're close.
All right, I'm at a 4.6. I just kind of want to point out that again, like I tried to crowdsource this a hair, and 4for4 has this as the 30th best offensive line. 30th, 30. Bottom three.
I'll have to check out the ratings.
Yeah, interesting. I am actually, you and I both are on the high side for this group in a crowdsource kind of manner. FTN has them 28th. Mike Clay had him 26th. Worth monitoring. We may be too high. And honestly, that's where I feel like the Achilles heel is with the entire offense, because I don't really have a strong sense, Andy, of what is Jordan Love's performance like if you're getting quick pressure up the middle consistently. If he's breaking the pocket and he's on the roll, and I've seen him do amazing things, particularly striking downfield to Christian Watson, like he can do it. We know he can do it. But if it's quick, if the pressure's coming a little quicker and more consistently on more obvious passing downs, like they're at a deficit, does that really ding this group? Because as a whole, I think this is still a very good offense. I have them 13th. They are 62nd percentile for me. So reason to be optimistic
in that range, like
between
60 and 65%, there's like 10 teams.
Yeah.
So they're just a smidge away from being like the 5th best offense, but they're also a smidge away from being like the 18th best offense. I have them as 61st percentile, right in the mix with a lot of the really good teams. Okay. They're just not the Rams,
Defense for me weighs in at a 48th percentile, 17th best in the NFL. Their strength is
7 for me.
Strength for me was the run stop, 5.2. That feels high as I look at this depth chart. Coverage I have is a 5.2. That may be a little bit low. And then their pass rush is a 4.2, which is, that's not glamorous. That's, kind of bottom 10 in the NFL for me. Until Michael Parsons comes back, I'm not seeing how you're necessarily generating the pressure you need to put away opponents. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. He's very good, Drew. Like I think we can give Micah Parsons some credit there. My pass rush was 4.5 compared to your 4.2. I mean, right in the same kind of range. We're going to be relying on Lucas Van Ness to take a step forward here. You're going to be relying on these guys you brought in, a rookie nose tackle, McClellan, Hargrave. The trade you made for Zaire Franklin, he's a run D upgrade, I think, more so. Edgerrin Cooper playing your weak side backer, and then Devontae Wyatt is back and hopefully 100% healthy. So below average, but obviously it takes a huge jump up in 6 weeks when we get Parsons back. My runs, you're right. Your run step was 5.2. I'm not there.
You're not there.
I dropped that a little bit. I like some of the defensive secondary pieces, like McKinney can help with that. Evan Williams definitely helps with that.
I'm also high on Edgerrin Cooper, and I know it.
He's a 3-down linebacker. He'll be
a good
out
player.
there. He's a very good player. I think he's important, but I mentioned Hargrave as liability. Some of your edges are just pure edges. And then
I think what we're saying is the same thing, which is the second level will be tested. They probably will answer those questions on the test, but they will be tested.
Yeah, I'm starting at a 4.2 on run stop for now. I'll bring it up. I like Cooper. I like Franklin. I like maybe McClellan. We're going to find out. He's a rookie, but starting low. And then coverage, I was a little lower as well, 4.5. It's hey, Xavier McKinney, you're really good.
Okay.
And then that's the rest of it. Carrington Valentine versus St. Juice and the other rookie that Keyshawn Nixon is just your de facto CB1, I guess. Javon Bullard will be your nickel. He was a good slot corner, slot defensive back. Evan Williams, I mentioned, good strong safety, but I think he's probably up in the box more often. So, I mean, it could improve if we get better play from Valentine or St. Juice and Nixon takes a step forward. But for now, it's middle of the pack.
Okay.
I thought Nixon regressed a little, so I'm not
gonna fight you on that. I've had a tough time with this secondary now. 3 years gone. Like, are they good? Question mark. I don't know. Yeah. Intangibles. I went with a 6.9. I actually think LaFleur's go for it rate was surprisingly positive. His pass over expected, especially when he does it, like when he's got a short second down. I feel like that's super, super effective as part of his bag of tricks, right? Everybody's expecting a run and move the chains, and he takes a swing. I don't know. Is there anything? What am I missing about LaFleur and his intangibles that you're a little lower?
Yeah, I'm a little lower. I thought he's in that second group, but he's not elevated his way up the top. And here's the thing, I gave him a lot of the credit I want to give him in the QBOC number.
Okay. All right.
I'm a little lower there, and I guess I'd like to sharpen up my numbers a little on fourth down go rates and stuff. I don't use that as heavily as I could. So I'm at a 5.6 there, and then special teams were close. I have 4.9, you have 4. I did change. I went back to my old rating system.
You gave him you gave him an extra 0.9 because of the all name team, Trey Smack.
Special teams is it wasn't great last year. It was like a pretty bad punt return operation. I think they're gonna maybe use Sky Moore in that sense this year. I'm trying to think. Yeah,
you really gonna make the team?
I think Sky Moore was kind of brought in to be your returner.
I feel like if he makes the team, that's a bad sign.
But he's a good returner. He was like top 10 in the league, and like
put Matthew Golden back there. Do something with him.
So I think Matthew Golden, Savion Williams, and even Reed and Melton are in the mix.
Okay.
But yeah, a lot of it was.
God, a lot of those guys, I think, are very much on the bubble.
A lot of my my number was, hey, you know what? You got a pretty decent punter in Waylon. And then you have probably a rookie kicker, and then Sky Moore is good. So average number for me.
Okay. Overall, I'm at a 58th percentile, which gets me to a 0.87. Obviously, we do things differently. We don't need to cover this every time, but I think you're probably pretty close. What's your percentile?
My percentile for the Green Bay Packers, I'm going to put that on the thing next year. My percentile as a team is a 59.4%.
Yes.
Team that wins 10.1 games.
So I'm at a 58.4 percentile team that wins 4.9 games. No, sorry, 9.4 games.
Jesus Christ.
9.4.
Jump scare.
The market
I'm
now.
I'm going to put projected wins on the charts next.
Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah.
The market rating for the Green Bay Packers is a 2.88. So regardless of how you do it and how we got to your numbers, we are both
a little low.
Cooler than the Packers relative to market. I also feel like most of the numbers and most of the flags I have are ready to turn down on this team. Like, I definitely don't think there's a world where I'm looking at my 7.
What are your biggest strengths on the Green Bay Packers?
QBOC.
And what's your biggest question mark on the offense? Is that offensive line going to be? It could be shit.
It could be league average, or is it going to be bottom 3?
Yeah, because if it's league average, then those strengths can shine and bring everybody up the rising tide. If the offensive line is a legit liability and Love is constantly pressured or injured, then this team is finishing 4th in the division because they're starting Tyrod Taylor for 9 games, and that's a problem. So it's kind of a weak link system team where the weak link really could hose everybody and take all of your strengths away from you.
I also feel like if you're a defensive coordinator, the game plan is very straightforward. Like, get some interior pressure.
Yeah.
Minnesota, week 1. As we look at the schedules, not necessarily a lot of opportunity for them to get interior pressure. That'll be worth kind of keeping an eye on. That might kind of turn that into more of an over game, but we'll return to those thoughts in a couple of weeks' time. Otherwise, your opening salvo of games has a couple of very highly, expected wins here. Before you get to November, you have 3 games where you're favored by a touchdown. I guess Jets, my guess is you'll be favored by a touchdown in week 2, not 6.5. We'll see. 7.5 point favorites against Atlanta on Thursday.
Jack Strand.
Jack Strand and the Atlanta Falcons only catching 7.5 points. That seems low.
They signed Cooper Rush today.
I saw that.
I think they were a little worried about their quarterbacks being healthy.
Is Cooper Rush a lefty? I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work. I would say that just generally this is a pretty favorable schedule, but there's a ton of coin flips. Like all of the NFC North teams, you're going to have to win your close calls if you're going to distinguish yourself in this division. You do draw the Detroit Lions, your dreaded rival, on the road, coming off of their bye. That stinks. And it is also a game 4 p.m. start in between 2 primetime games where you're going to have a short week to play Carolina the following week. I don't love the fact that off of your bye, off of your bye into the Wednesday Thanksgiving Day game against the Rams, who are also coming off their bye. So your bye gets neutered, double kind of neutered, right?
Yeah, you don't get as much time off to. I mean,
Can we
everything football aside, Drew?
Yeah.
I mean, game planning, getting ready, football aside, these guys who are used to playing in the league, they're used to that bye week being a bit of a respite, and it's shortened.
You're
by
kind of
several days.
Yeah, you're reading my mind. It's shortened by several days. Are they going to actually make them comply by the bye rules where they're not going to be in the facility until Monday and then they got to play Wednesday?
I would think they would lighten that up, but that's an interesting question worth digging into because that's a tough one. I mean, it's almost a scheduled loss anyway. I don't care how good this team is. Like, hey, guess what? You get another team off the bye, and it's the top power rated team in the league. And I don't know. They can absolutely win that game. That'll be a great one if the Packers are playing well, but that stinks. The scheduling of the Detroit game stinks. And then
we got to look that up about if they gave them a rules what's it called when you make a little provision?
An exception?
An exception. If they gave them a rules exception about how they're using that bye week. I mean, it's the same situation for both teams. So it's just whether
one of them plays at home.
Yeah, one of them plays at home, and one of them, maybe needs the extra time. And that's you. Yeah.
We'll see them both holiday weekends.
You know what's a huge positive of playing that Wednesday Thanksgiving Day game, Andy?
What?
You're in LA. Beautiful time of year to be in Los Angeles for Thanksgiving proper. Although they're probably going to put them on a plane and fly them right home into the cold.
I do have something to say.
Hit it.
And it harkens back to Circus Survivor / any Survivor you play. I need to actually go look at this and see what the overlap is. But I feel like we've done 7 or 8 of these. How many of these have we done? Is this week 3?
This is week 3. So we are
11 of these?
Yes, 11.
I feel like we've said this 4 or 5 times already where it's like, oh, they play Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah, you know what? You're right.
You know what? If there's a ton of overlap, it really limits your pool.
Golly.
It limits your pool because if you make it that far,
it takes 8 goodish teams where you just can't touch them.
Yeah, that's crazy because you can't use them both times. Obviously, it makes that decision that much tougher. So overall, a tough-ish schedule, but you do draw the AFC East, so you get 2 really bad teams. You draw the NFC South, I believe. Yeah, Tampa, Atlanta, New Orleans.
So does everybody in your division.
Yeah, everybody in your division draws that team. But overall, you get some easier ones there. With the AFC East, you have to play New England, Buffalo, which isn't great. But yeah, New England, Buffalo, Rams, Detroit, Houston. There's some toughies on the schedule.
Yeah. Second place schedule. It's tough. 10 implied wins. If they go 10-7, I don't think any of us would be shocked. Final thoughts on the Green Bay Packers, Andy.
Betting angles, anything?
I guess I'm going to take them on early in the season in games where they're playing a team that can really generate a pretty impressive interior pass rush, which, as we look at the opponents, might not be anyone. What the heck? They may not face like a good interior pass rusher until week 6 Sunday Night Football versus Dallas. Am I forgetting somebody? Minnesota does not have an especially strong interior pass rush. The Jets obviously don't. Atlanta, they're more of an outside rush team. Tampa, if Vita Vea is not a buck, then they have no answers.
And he's not healthy either.
Chicago's interior pass rush is hilariously weak.
Dallas is your first spot where you have a good interior.
Okay, so here's your betting plan. You ready? Let them win these games. Let the market upgrade them even more beyond what their fair rating is, and then pull the ripcord in that Dallas, Detroit, Carolina stretch.
Played on the Calcius, played on the Novigs. Cash out, baby. Take your winnings. Run home. I also wonder, too, this is a dumb angle, I think. Maybe narrative is the better word for it. But Micah Parsons having like 13 sacks in only 11 games, people be like, "Oh my God, he really tore it up." And it's at the end of the season, not the beginning. So it's like, what have you done for me lately?
It's in prime time. It's on Wednesday. It's on Christmas. It's on prime time.
But you look at some of your lower rated offensive lines. I think he could probably do pretty well against Miami. I think the jury is a little out on the Chicago rebuild. I think we can definitely say Houston's offensive line is not completely fixed, nor will it ever be. And I think Detroit, as we're going to talk about in our next podcast, has some definite question marks. You're facing some offensive lines you can get after in the last 4 games. I'm not saying bet Micah Parsons Defensive Player of the Year now. I'm saying bet it in 4 weeks or 4 weeks into the season when somebody else is doing well.
So
and then
do the keep talking me through this. When is he coming back?
I think he's coming back week 6.
Sunday Night Football versus
I think
Dallas.
he's going to push to come back.
He's leading him out of the tunnel in Lambeau against Dallas.
God, against his own team. Like, that's what he pushes for, I believe. That's fun, right? That's more
if not
fun
week 6, then certainly week 7 versus Detroit or at Detroit, I guess. Because
if he could get 12 games, I think he could do it. And if you get an inflated number, somebody has 6 or 7 sacks through 5-6 games, they're starting to be the favorite because it's a bigger name, and he gets pushed out to 15, 18 to 1. I'll take a flyer on that. I'm trying to think of something positive because yours was a little more negative. It's bet on Green Bay and then pull the ripcord.
I guess then that Minnesota game matters for this entire thought exercise. Your equity gets thermo-nuked if they lose that game. Your equity catches all of the wind if they win that game. Right?
Yeah.
You kind of can't sit that one out if you're going to exercise a strategy of making money on the Packers, future swapping.
You live bet the Vikings against the spread when they're down in the first half. a lot of moving.
You know what I'm going though with this, which is like, I think if you're going to exercise a strategy of ripcording this crew, you have to play it pre-Minnesota, and you have to basically be going into that Sunday afternoon game with an opinion that Green Bay wins. And by the way, like I haven't mentioned it. We haven't talked about week 1 at all. This is flipped favorite. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Our opener is already flipped. Like there's the
small movement though. It's a small movement.
The true sickos who instead of betting into the high liquidity insanity of World Cup spent their summer making week 1 fairs have been pounding Minnesota in this spot. Not me, but
it's at the
someone.
bank, man. It's at the
Someone.
bank.
Tough place to play. All right, man. Let's close the book on the pack and go talk linos, unless you have any closing thoughts.
Do you think we did DMCA'd for that?
No, I don't think so. That's in the public. That's in the public domain, man. That goes back to like the 30s, probably.
Does it? I have no idea. Somebody with the history of the Green Bay Packers needs to tell us when the saxophone go was introduced.
Yeah.
All right. Hit the thumbs up. Hit subscribe. All the jazz. Enjoy these podcasts and listening. We appreciate you, and we'll see you for the Lions.